The U.S. moves to roll back workplace protections, withdraws from UNESCO for the second time, and the world says goodbye to rock icon Ozzy Osbourne. And here's today's trivia question. What's the scientific name for the Western lowland gorilla? It's Wednesday, July 23rd. This is the Flyover Podcast. Welcome to the Flyover Podcast, taking you above the noise for an unbiased, high-altitude view of today's headlines with daily coverage that's honest and refreshing. Let's cruise the news and land the facts. Good morning and welcome to the Flyover Podcast. I'm your weekday host, Ayla Brown. I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for watching, listening, and sharing the show. This week, we hit a major milestone. Amy Hess's Feel Good Friday episodes have officially become the most watched content on our YouTube channel, and Monday's episode with me came in as our second most streamed and downloaded since the launch. So truly, thank you. You ready to break more records? I thought so. Let's take off with the biggest headlines of the day. The Department of Labor is looking to repeal or rewrite 63 workplace rules. That includes regulations around diversity and inclusion, wage protections, mine safety, and how OSHA enforces workplace standards. It's part of a broader effort by the Trump administration to cut red tape, building on a first-term policy that required scrapping 10 rules for every new one. Supporters say this will help industries like home care and agriculture, but critics worry it could put workers at risk. Nothing is final yet. There's a public comment period before any changes go into effect. President Trump says the U.S. is pulling out of UNESCO again, citing concerns about how the group handles diversity policies, its treatment of Israel, and what the White House calls rising Chinese influence. A recent review found that some of UNESCO's initiatives, like labeling Jewish heritage sites as Palestinian and pushing social justice toolkits, clash with U.S. policy goals. This is actually the second time President Trump has withdrawn the U.S. from the agency, with the first happening back in 2017. And finally, Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76. The legendary frontman of Black Sabbath and star of the Osbournes passed away surrounded by family just over 2 weeks after performing his final show in his hometown of Birmingham. Ozzy had been living with Parkinson's disease and other health issues in recent years, but his impact on music and pop culture was massive. His final memoirs, Last Rites, is still to come out this October. Here are your top political headlines. President Trump hosted Philippine President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos at the White House this week and came out of the meeting with a new trade deal. Under the agreement, the U.S. will slap a 19% tariff on goods coming from the Philippines, but in return, American exports will get tariff-free access to their markets. The idea is to tighten economic ties at a time when China's influence is growing fast in the Indo-Pacific region. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson just announced that the House is starting its August recess a day early and canceling Thursday's votes. Why? To avoid a Democratic-led push demanding the release of Jeffrey Epstein's investigative files. The delay means that vote won't happen until September. Johnson says the move gives the Trump administration more time to act, but not everyone is happy. Republican Rep. Thomas Massie urged the House to take action before leaving town. In related news, Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche says he's planning to meet with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate. The DOJ wants to know if she's willing to share names or details about others involved in Epstein's crimes. Maxwell's lawyer confirmed she'll testify truthfully, and there's speculation this could lead to a reduced sentence. President Trump has also voiced support for getting answers, putting added pressure on the Justice Department to follow through. And in China, a U.S. Department of Commerce employee, who also happens to be a Wells Fargo banker, was blocked from leaving the country over the weekend. Authorities say he's linked to an ongoing criminal investigation, but so far details are scarce. The move is being called a, quote, exit ban, and it's reigniting concerns about U.S.-China tensions. The State Department is now warning Americans to think twice before traveling to China due to risks like these. Today's episode is brought to you by Fatty 15. Let's talk about healthy aging for a second. We all want to feel better, sleep deeper, and stay sharper as we get older. But that doesn't happen on its own. That's where Fatty 15 comes in. It's a science-backed supplement featuring the first essential fatty acid discovered in over 90 years. Now, more than 100 studies show that C15 helps strengthen our cells and slow aging at the cellular level. Fatty 15 is vegan, 100% pure, and has 3 times more cellular benefits than omega-3s. And get this, many people may be low on C15 without even knowing it. It's tied to something called cellular fragility syndrome, a newly discovered nutritional deficiency that could be behind things like fatigue, poor sleep, and brain fog. Fatty 15 is on a mission to optimize your C15 levels to help support your long-term health and wellness, especially as you age. Get 15% off your 90-day subscription starter kit at fatty15.com/flyover with the code FLYOVER at checkout. You can find the info in the show notes below. Here are some bonus stories just for listeners of the Flyover podcast. First, House Republicans are pushing to rename the Kennedy Center's Opera House after First Lady Melania Trump. As part of a new federal spending bill, they voted to tie the center's funding to the proposed name change, something that would still need Senate approval and President Trump's signature to actually happen. It's part of a broader GOP effort to leave a lasting stamp on the historic arts institution, including appointing Trump-aligned leadership. At King Charles's High Grove estate, 11 of his 12 full-time gardeners have reportedly quit. They're citing a toxic work environment, low pay, and micromanagement. Some even complained about getting handwritten grammar corrections from the king in red ink. An internal review backed up many of the concerns, pointing to poor morale and a need for better training and mental health support. Despite High Grove's financial success and growing crowds, staff say expectations are just unrealistic. And finally, doctors are warning people not to try freeze branding, a new viral alternative to tattoos that involves burning skin with liquid nitrogen. The trend, of course, started on TikTok and was inspired by livestock branding, but experts say it's incredibly risky. It can cause deep burns, serious infections, and permanent tissue damage. Dermatologists are urging people to think twice before turning this into a fashion statement. That is your podcast extra roundup. No tattoos, or at least the branding kind, please. I look forward to giving you more exclusive content in tomorrow's podcast. Coming up, The Athletic just released a list of the most valuable football programs in the country. Georgia came in second. Any idea what came in first? I'll tell you after finance. In finance, Coca-Cola announced it will soon launch a new drink for U.S. consumers that uses cane sugar instead of high-fructose corn syrup. This marks a shift in response to growing consumer demand for cleaner ingredient labels and nostalgia for the taste of the original recipes. Cane sugar versions of soda have long been popular in Latin American markets and among specialty drink fans in the U.S. But this is one of Coke's biggest moves to mainstream the option. Next, General Motors reported its second quarter earnings, revealing it took a $1.1 billion hit from tariffs. Despite the steep costs, the company still beat analyst expectations thanks to strong sales of its core gasoline-powered trucks and SUVs. This shows that while EVs are grabbing headlines, GM's traditional vehicles remain a steady profit engine. The earnings report comes as automakers continue to navigate a complex global supply chain and shifting trade policies. AstraZeneca announced it will invest $50 billion in the U.S. by 2030, a major push to expand pharmaceutical manufacturing and research domestically. The move is part of a broader strategy to reduce the company's exposure to new U.S. tariffs on foreign-made drugs. AstraZeneca says the investment will lead to tens of thousands of new jobs and help strengthen America's drug supply chain, a key concern after COVID-era shortages highlighted vulnerabilities in overseas production. Here's your stock market update. The Nasdaq dipped 0.39%, while the S&P 500 inched up 0.06%. The Dow rose 0.40%, Bitcoin gained 2.05%, and gold was up 1.15%. But the biggest mover of the day was Kohl's. Kohl's stock surged 37.62% after becoming the latest target of retail investors on Reddit and other social platforms. The struggling department store chain saw a wave of trading activity despite no major company news, as online traders rallied around the stock in classic meme-style fashion. Here's your sports headlines. And let's talk about it. Depending on where you live, college football is huge. So, have you ever wondered what the most valuable football program is? Well, the Athletics' latest ranking names them, and the Texas Longhorns came in at the top by a lot. Right now, the program is valued at $2.38 billion. With no national title since 2005, Texas's SEC move, deep donor base, and playoff semifinal runs in the past 2 years drive its top spot. By the way, behind them is Georgia at $1.92 billion. See the full list in the show notes below, and let's just say my alma mater was not listed there. But go Eagles. Next, the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee is pushing for a new law that would guarantee a minimum amount of funding for Olympic sports, like swimming and gymnastics, to make sure they're not left behind. This comes after last year's $500 million budget and growing concern that the new NCAA revenue-sharing rules could shift money toward football and basketball, putting Olympic sports at risk. The committee wants to lock in at least $100 million a year to support those athletes and keep their programs strong. ESPN is riding a wave of success in 2025, averaging 712,000 viewers per minute across its 24-hour broadcast cycle, the highest in a decade. It's driven by NFL, college football, and women's basketball. The network's January to June numbers show a 15% jump from 2024, boosted by events like the expanded college football playoff and Caitlin Clark's WNBA debut. Lastly, the Milwaukee Brewers became the first National League team to reach 60 wins this season, hitting the mark on July 21st during an 11-game win streak, the longest in MLB this year. In science and technology, archaeologists in Spain have discovered something pretty remarkable, a trilobite fossil that was modified and used as a protective amulet during the Roman Empire. It was uncovered at a wealthy mining settlement that dates back to the 1st and 3rd centuries AD, marking the first time a trilobite has ever been found in a Roman context. Now, if you don't know what that is, trilobites are ancient marine creatures that went extinct over 250 million years ago. So the fact that someone repurposed one as a good luck charm centuries later gives us kind of a fascinating glimpse into how people connected with the distant past. Elon Musk says he's working on a kid-friendly version of his Grok AI chatbot called Baby Grok. No, I'm kidding. I won't do that. The new platform is meant to offer a safer and more educational experience for children, though exact launch details are still under wraps. If you don't know, the Grok chatbot is very unfiltered, so creating a version aimed at kids will likely require significant safeguards and oversight. And finally, a new study may be rewriting part of spider history. Scientists have found evidence that spiders, or at least their ancient relatives, may have originated in the ocean and not on land. The clue comes from a Cambrian-era sea creature with brain structures similar to the modern spiders. That discovery suggests today's land-dwelling spiders could trace their roots back to marine ancestors. And I would say that shifts our understanding of how some of Earth's earliest creepy crawlers evolved. Ugh. Still to come, a story that almost brought me to tears. Plus, the trivia question about the western lowland gorillas. It's all coming up. Let's wrap things up with a few stories that you might have missed, but they're so important to know. You ever wake up wondering why you dreamed about someone random? Like an old friend, a coworker, or even your ex? I won't tell anyone. Dream analysts say it's usually not about the person themselves, but what they represent in your life. For example, dreaming about an ex might signal unresolved emotions or a need for closure. Dreaming of a boss could reflect how you're handling pressure or control. Our brains use familiar faces to work through emotions we might not even realize that we're processing. Read more about this in the show notes below if it interests you. In Washington state, a father's being called a hero after he pulled his 4-year-old son from the jaws of a mountain lion during a hike in Olympic National Park. The boy was airlifted to a trauma center in Seattle, but has since been released and is recovering. Officials say the animal was later euthanized, and attacks like this, especially on children, are incredibly rare. And this is the one that brought me to tears. In the Philippines, a bride is going viral after she waded through waters knee-deep caused by a typhoon just to get to the altar. Photos show her walking barefoot through the historic church in a soaked wedding gown that trailed behind her like a floating train. Despite the storm, she said there was no way she was missing her big day with the man that she's loved for years. Sorry. You can see the photos in the show notes below. And I will say it really did almost bring me to tears because it was just the bride and the groom and no one else was in the pews. I don't know. To me, that's true love. And in China, officials have unveiled the world's largest inflatable dome, about the size of 4 football fields, designed to trap dust and cut down on pollution from major construction sites. It's part of a growing effort to curb environmental damage as the country ramps up its infrastructure projects. Here's yesterday's poll question and the results. I hope I'm not starting a fight, but Coca-Cola or Pepsi? 48% said Coca-Cola. 31% said neither. Ooh, proud of you. And 21% said Pepsi. Yeah, I don't know about you, but everyone I ask always says they like Coke over Pepsi. But hey, who am I to say? Everyone has their preferences. And here's the poll question for today. If you could bring only one back to national life, what would it be? Sears, Radio Shack, Borders, Kmart, or Woolworths, or other? And you can reply in the comments section to tell us which. I'm going to vote other because I've never heard of some of these stores, but up here in New England, there was an incredible store called the Christmas Tree Shops. But it wasn't really a Christmas store. It was an affordable home decor store with the best items, especially if you're into like the nautical beachy theme. You could buy decorations for your entire house. I miss it so much. But anyways, vote in the show notes below and I will read the answers in tomorrow's show. All right, here's the trivia question. What's the scientific name for the western lowland gorilla? Okay, answer. Get ready for this one. It's gorilla, gorilla, gorilla. I'm serious. It's in the genus gorilla, the species gorilla, and the subspecies gorilla. So yeah, it's basically the most gorilla of all gorillas. That is such a tongue twister. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for making this a great week for the Flyover podcast, for watching, rating, listening, and sharing. It really is helping. If you missed the top of the show, I will just repeat again, we are doing really well, and it's all thanks to you. I'll be back tomorrow with more headlines. Until then, thanks for flying with us.